Hello everyone and welcome. So this is the final design that we'll be working on today in this tutorial. So what I'll be doing is I'll be showing you step by step how I managed to create this. So you can see here we have this large hero image. We also have a color palette which I created, which I'll also show you how to create step by step. And all these images, you can see that this is a layout based on a site that produces video content. So I'll be showing you step by step how to create this. And as we scroll down here, I'll also show you how to create these images here and also how to use blending modes and also layer masks. So as we come here to the bottom, we can see here we also created this footer area. So I will be showing you step by step how to create this full design using Photoshop. If you'd like to follow along, no problem. What I've done is I've packaged this Photoshop document, which you can use free of charge if you want to follow step by step, or you can actually use this design in your own projects. So if you head over to the link that I'll provide in the show notes below, you can actually go and download this layout and you can go ahead and use it in your designs. And while you're over there, make sure you subscribe. And if you like this tutorial, do share it because sharing is caring. All right, guys, without wasting a lot of time, let's dive in and let me show you how I managed to create this. So you may be asking, what's the point of going through this whole process if you can just go into DIVI and start designing it? Well, it's important because we can see how our page looks. And if you're designing this for a client, you can actually show this design to the client before you actually go into the building of the website. Because if you get everything right at this stage, it makes it easier for you now to transition and start making all the designs in DIVI. And also it saves you a lot of time because what could happen is you could go through, design everything in DIVI and then find out that the client is not happy with the colors, is not happy with the layout. So this process just saves you a lot of time and it also makes you come across very, very professional. So in my process of building a landing page or designing a website in Photoshop is to start off with the colors. So I'm on this website called coolers.co. So here, this is a very cool site. You can always come here and choose a color palette that you can work with. So I've gone in here and I've played around with these colors. I'm pretty much happy with what I've got. So this is how you choose, a color palette. So you can choose all your shades by just clicking the shades that you like. But the good thing about this is all the colors that we're going to use throughout this template actually work well together. You can also go in and generate your own colors and you can also see what others have made. So if you click here on explore, we can see that there's quite a lot of templates that you can take a look at, and you can always go into any one of these and make your own adjustments. So let's say, for example, you want to come into this one here, you can click on view and then you can start doing all your adjustments. So you can come in here and reduce the brightness, for example, and then come over here and maybe on this one, you may want to change the shades. So you do it right there. So it just depends on what sort of website you're going with. You get the idea. Right, so what I normally do here is I just capture this page so I can import it in Photoshop. So on Mac, I hit Command Shift 4, and this just allows me to just drag a part of this page to capture it. If you're using a PC, you can always do a print screen, and that will do the same thing. Okay, so now that we have our color palette ready, let's dive into Photoshop. Okay, so I'm here in Photoshop. So the first thing you want to do is to create a new document. So I'm going to click on New, 1200, and let's make the height 2000. And we're going to make sure the orientation is portrait. And then I don't normally use the artboard, so I just leave it unchecked. So let's go ahead now and let's hit create. Okay, so that's our page. So the first thing we need to import here is that color palette. So let's come over here to our desktop, and this is our color palette. So I'll drag it onto my desktop like that. Now it's always good practice for you to name these layers as we're building them. So I'm just going to hit enter now to accept that. And then I'm going to come over here to the layers and I'm going to make sure that this is labeled. So I'm going to double click and just call this palette like that. So I can always disable and enable this whenever I need. Now let's bring our guides onto the page. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to just work out where things are going to go. So if you don't have these rulers, what you need to do is to hit Command R or Control R if you're on a PC. So this brings the rulers. So what I'm going to try and do throughout this tutorial is to just go through some shortcuts, and this will help you work faster in Photoshop. So now that I have my rulers up there, I'm just going to click in the ruler area and drag. So now you can see we have a guide. Okay, so I'm dragging it all the way here and just let go. So this is how high I need my hero area to be. And then I'm going to drag another one. So this is my next section. I'm going to drag another one. So for now, I'm just dragging these on, but it doesn't matter if they're not accurate because we can always move them around later on like that. Okay, so that's looking good so far. Next, we're going to start creating some rectangles on where we need our content to go. So firstly, our hero area here, I'm just going to leave that as it is because that's where our main image is going to come. But below that, we're going to have this area called new releases. This is where we're going to have the latest videos. So let me start off by coming here to this rectangle tool, shape tool. So what I'm going to do is to come over here and just create a rectangle. So it can be, say, 342. In fact, the size doesn't really matter here for now. So that's my first one. Now, when it comes to the colors, you can choose any colors you want to use for this. So it doesn't really matter. We're just using this as a guide. So if you want to readjust them, all you need to do is to hit Command T, and then you can just adjust it by just moving this around like that. Okay. Right. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to click and hit the Alt key. This duplicates that shape. Okay, so I need a few of these, so I'm going to do that one more time. So now I can see I've got 3. Ideally, I want to have 4. So I'm going to select all of these, hit Command T, and then I am going to hold down the Shift key and drag, and then make these slightly smaller so I can fit one more. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to click on one of these, and while I'm holding down the Option key, I'm going to drag, and now we have 4 of these. Now let's just align them and make sure that they're all in the right place. So I'm just going to drag them, and now they're aligned like that. So that's looking good. So in our layers area here, we can see that we have rectangle 1 and then copy, copy, copy. Let's put all these in a group. So I'm going to click on the first one, hold down the Command key, and then click the second, third, and the fourth. Okay, so now to group these, what you need to do is to hit the Command G. So I'm going to hit Command G. Now you can see they're grouped, and we're going to call this new releases. Like that. Okay, so that's our new releases section. Let's move on to the next part, which is the upcoming. Okay. Now, just like before, I'm going to come over here and select a rectangle. And then I'm just going to drag it like that. So again, what I'm going to try and do here, but this time it's going to be edge to edge. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and I'm just going to make sure that I have 3 of these. So if they don't fit, no problem. What you can do is you can select all 3 of them like that. Hit Command T to transform, and then while you're holding the Shift key, just make sure that you reduce the size until you've got it edge by edge like that, and then hit enter. So we can see these are all our 3 rectangles. So if I did do the same thing as I did before and select these rectangles, hit Command G to group them, and this time I'm going to call these upcoming. Okay, that's looking good. Right, now we need to add an area here of featured. Okay, so again, we're going to come over here to our rectangle tool, and then we are going to draw all our featured stuff that's going to come over here. So as before, I need to have 4 of these. So I am going to just make sure that I hold down the Option key or the Alt key and then just drag like that. And as before, we need to have 4 of these. So I'm going to highlight all of them, hit Command T, and then just reduce this until I have space for the 4th one. Maybe slightly more like that. I'm going to hit Enter to commit to that, and then I'm going to click on one of the rectangles like that and hold the Option key or the Alt key. Fantastic. So that's looking good. I'm going to highlight all of them, hit Command T, and then I'm just going to drag these into position. And you can see this little line that comes up here. That just shows that everything is all centered. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to click away and hit Apply. Okay, so these are our main areas where all our content is going to go. Now, while they're all selected, or if you haven't selected them, you can just select them one more time by doing this and then hitting Command G, and then you can give that group a title. So I'm just going to put title for here for now. Okay, so let's recap. So now we can see that we have our main hero area up here. We have our color palette, and we also have these areas here where we're going to add all our content. Okay, brilliant. So that's looking good. So if you see that some of your content is in the wrong area, you can always just drag it out and make sure you drag it into the right place. So all the images that I used throughout this tutorial have been sourced from this website called Pixabay. Now this is a royalty-free website, which means you can use all these images on your projects without getting into trouble. Okay, so make sure you don't go onto Google and just start downloading images, because that can result into problems with copyright. So this website is very good. I mean, you can actually come here and search for the images that you want to use. So you can say city, and that will show you the cityscapes and so on. So you can see these pictures are beautiful and they're large enough for them to be high res for your images without pixelating. So this is pretty cool. So make sure you go to Pixabay. Okay, so let's go back to our Photoshop document. And as I mentioned before, I have all my images on my desktop, all downloaded and ready to go. So I'm going to come over here to my Finder, then go to my desktop, and you can see here I've got my folder called Site Images. So I can just make sure I have the right icon here so I can see which image I'm going to use. Okay, so the first image I'm going to use is this surfer right here. So I'm just going to drag it onto my desktop like that. So that's the first image I'm going to use. So I'm just going to stretch this until it fits my area here. Okay, so now that our image fits, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to drag it here so it is just above my background. And then here we still have our color palette. So I'm just going to disable it for now because it's in the way. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to add a background color. So I'm going to click the background here, click on add a new layer. So I'm going to activate my palette. So here, over here on the colors, I'm going to click once and I'm going to select this dark color. It's not really black, but you can see here it's the hex color is 00101A. So I'm going to select that and then hit Alt Backspace. Now, if I hit Alt Backspace, that just adds, it fills that background with that color, which I have in the foreground. I'm just going to disable my color palette for now. Now let's move on to the next area, which is this area right here. So we need to add these icons of the new releases. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to come over here to my desktop again, to my images, and then I'm just going to start dragging all the images that I need. So the first one is going to be this one here, which has this food. So as you can see, the image is large and it's filling up the whole space and it's behind all of this. Now it doesn't really matter. For now, let me just commit and hit enter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this and make sure that I have the right rectangle. So it's this one. So now I'm going to drag my foot image and drag it on top of my first rectangle. So you can see this is the image. And then this is my first rectangle. Now we won't see this rectangle because I've disabled it and it's above this image. So what I'm going to do next now is to, while I'm between the food image and the first rectangle, I'm going to hit the Alt key to create a clipping mask like that. So now you can see this image here has been clipped into the first rectangle. So now if I hit Command T, I can now reduce the size of this image and make sure that it fits that rectangle like that. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to hit enter. And then what I'm going to do is to go to the next one. So to make sure that I'm selecting the right one, I've just clicked once on this rectangle. So I need to make sure that the image that's going to come in here has to be above this rectangle one copy. So again, I'm going to come over here and let me select my next image. So it's going to be about this footballers right there. Again, I'm going to hit enter to commit to that first. And then I'm going to hold the Alt key and add a clipping mask. So while that image is selected, I'm going to hit Command T. And then I am just going to resize this until I'm happy with the positioning of my image. Now, if you're working so far out, what you could do is you can hit Command plus, that zooms in so you can have a better chance of seeing what you're doing. Like that. So I think I'm happy with this. I'm going to hit enter. Let's move on to the third one. I'm going to click once on this rectangle, back over here to my desktop, and let's choose another image. So this time I'm going to choose this surfer lady here, drag her into position, hit enter to commit to that, hold the Alt key, and there we go. So I'm going to click once on the image, hit Control T, and now I am resizing this so we can get it into position. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to hit enter. Finally, I'm going to go to our last image here, our last rectangle, and add our image. And this time, the image we're going to add is, let's choose these two animals here. Drag them here into position, hit enter. And then, as I did before, hold the Alt key to create a clipping mask, hit enter, and then resize it. Okay, it's looking cool. So what I need to do next now is just to label this section and call it new releases. So I'm going to come over here to the type tool, and then let's just type new releases like that. Now that's a bit too big, so I'm going to highlight all the text, come over here to the top, and then just drag this down until I reach my desired size, and I think 18 is good. And then I'm just going to position this into place. So you can see our page is now taking shape, and I'm really pleased with that. The next thing I'm going to do now is to add a play icon, because these are going to be videos. So when someone comes on this page, they want to click the icon, or the icon shows them that this is a video. So let's come over here to our shapes. So in fact, before I do that, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to come over here to my shapes. So you can see I've pressed down. The one that I need is the ellipse tool. So I'm going to select the ellipse tool. So right now it's set to black. So that's fine. So I'm going to hold down the shift key. I mean, you can't see what I'm drawing here, but if I let go, you can see that we have a black circle. So now with that black circle selected, and we can see it's here. And if you want, you can go ahead and label it. So I'm just going to call this circle. Now let's choose a rectangle as a shape. So I'm going to come over here to my custom shape tool, and right here, if it's not selected by default, you can always come here and select it here. Okay. Now that we have it selected, I am just going to hit X. So by hitting X, you can see here, I'm just toggling back and forth by hitting X. I'm swapping between the black and the white. Okay. So making sure the white is in the foreground, I'm just going to click and drag and make sure that I have my rectangle. In fact, it hasn't taken on my color, but no problem. I'm going to come over here to the top left, click on the fill and just make sure that I choose white. And then now you can see here, it's now white. So I'm just going to drag it to the center. I'm going to zoom in by pressing Command plus and then hitting Command T. So I can just make sure that it's facing the right way and it's the right size. I want to hit enter. Okay, so now we have a play button. Now this black is, this circle is a bit too dark. So let's add some transparency. So I'm going to come over here. So right now we're on opacity of 100. Let's drag it down to, let's say 50. So I'm just going to type in 50 in there like that. And that's way much better. Okay, so now I'm going to click on that circle and the main shape, hit Command, or in fact, I'm going to save this as a smart object. So I'm going to come over here and click on Convert to Smart Object. And then I'm just going to call this play button. Now, the reason why we are labeling all these is because sometimes you can get to a point where all your items are just way too many up here. So by labeling them, it makes it easier for you to find what you're looking for. Okay, so now that I have it labeled as a play button and it's a smart object, what I'm going to do next is to hold down the Alt key and duplicate it. So I'm just going to drag this to the next one. Now we can see here that it's not showing, and that's because it's behind this image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this layer above like that. And now you can see it's now showing. So I'm going to click one more time on it, hold down the Alt key and drag it to the surfer lady. And again, it's behind. So I'm going to click, drag until it's above. And then finally, I'm going to do it to the last item, which is the animals like that. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out of this by clicking on Command minus. Okay, so that's our new releases area all corrected now. So that's looking really good. Right, so let's move on to the next area, which is called upcoming. So instead of typing again, all I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the new release text, hit the Alt key, drag it all the way to the bottom here and label this next section. So the next section, in fact, if you want to rename this, you can just hit the command, the T for the type tool and then click anywhere inside here and then just delete that and rename it. So I'm going to call this upcoming. So pretty much I'm happy with that. Now let's add more images here. Okay, so back again onto our desktop where we have all the images. I'm going to select this car. That's my first image. And as you can see, it's way too big. So I'm going to hold on the Shift key and then just drag until I reach my desired size. Hit enter. So to make sure I'm clicking on the right item, I'm going to click on this rectangle and I can see this is the rectangle and my image is below it. So I'm going to click and drag it to the top and then hit the Alt key to create a clipping mask. Right, so this is similar to what we did before right here at the top. So just go ahead and continue to do that. So I'm going to resize this as well again because I need most of the car in here. So I'm just going to minimize this, make it a bit smaller like that, and then reposition it. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so that's looking good. I'm going to come over to my next item here so we can see it's rectangle 2 copy. I'm going to come over here to my desktop and I am going to drag my next image. So here my next image is going to be this New York City. Drag it over here, hold down the Shift key just to resize it. Okay, I'm going to hit enter and then I am going to hold down my Alt key and create a clipping mask. Okay, so let me just make sure I have most of my city in here like that. Okay, And then finally, I am going to click on this rectangle, come back to my desktop, and let's choose one more image. Now for this one, I am going to choose these footballers, drag them here to the desktop. Again, I'm going to resize my image. And then I'm going to hit enter. And I am going to do the clipping mask. Okay, so let me just zoom in a little bit so I can see a bit more of this image. Hit enter. Okay, so pretty much I'm happy with this. So this section is now done, the upcoming section. We are now over here to this area right here at the bottom. So let's choose a title for this. In fact, before I do that, let's just do a quick preview and see so far how we're doing. I'm going to hit Command minus so we can see more of this page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick shortcut that removes all our guides. So I'm going to hit Command colon. So now our guides are gone. I'm going to hit Command plus. So now we can zoom in. And as you hold the space bar, we can actually drag it and see how this looks like. Looking good. So let's come over here to the bottom and let's add images to this area right here. So before we do anything, let's start off by giving that section a title. So I'm just going to drag my text till I've got it here, hit the T, and then we are going to, let's call this most popular, like that. It's now time to add all our images. So I'm going to click on my first rectangle, come over here to my desktop, and again, I'm just going to drag all my images in. So my first image here is going to be of this performer. You can see it's a massive image. So let me zoom out so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to hold one of these corners while I'm holding down the shift key. Like that, hit enter. And then I'm going to do another clipping mask. Okay, I'm happy with that positioning. Let's click on the next rectangle, which is this one. And you can see it's highlighted right here in my layers. Coming over here to my desktop, let's choose this cameraman. Drag it all the way here. Now I can see this image is quite small, and I don't like using small images when it comes to this, because if I make it slightly bigger, what's going to happen is the quality of that image is going to be affected. So I'm going to delete that. Let's go back and find another one. So I'm going to choose Mr. James Stewart here. Okay, I'm going to resize that. Hit enter and hold on the Alt key to create a clipping mask. And you can see that fits right into position. So if you want to do a bit more adjustments, you can always hold on the shift key and zoom out like that. Okay, pretty cool. I'm going to hit enter. Now moving on to the next one, I'm going to click on my next rectangle, come over here to my desktop. So this time I am going to choose this classic car, drag it on like that, just resize a little bit, hit enter, add my clipping mask. Okay, that's looking good. I'm going to hit enter, and then on my last image here, with that selected, I'm going to come to my desktop and let's choose this fox. All right, I'm going to resize it, hit enter, add our clipping mask. Awesome. Okay, so if I zoom in, we can now see that our page is looking great, but we're not done yet. So there's a few things that we need to do, like add titles to this and also add a title here to the top. So what I'm going to do next is to convert all these to smart objects. This just makes it easier for me to work with these. So starting off with these first two items here on my left, I'm just going to select them, right click and convert to smart object. Okay, do the next here. right click, convert to smart object. Then I'm going to keep doing that, convert to smart object. So now we don't have to worry about those rectangles being selected by mistake. So coming over here to our next section, I'm going to do the same thing. Convert these to smart objects. So what I'm doing here is I am selecting the layers. So I select it here, hold down the shift key, click on the rectangle tool, right click and convert to smart object. So that's pretty much all I'm doing. And then our play button is already a smart object, so that's cool. So let's do the rest. If you're not sure what you're clicking on, what you need to do is to just click this eye icon to disable and see what you're actually clicking on. Okay, so the football. Okay, so I think I have everything in place now. I've got my play buttons. I've got all my titles in place. Now it's time to add some titles to this. So I'm going to click once on this image. Now with that image selected, you can see if we try to add some text here, it's going to be quite difficult for us to read. So I'm going to show you a technique that I normally use. So I'm going to click the type tool and let's add our title. So let's call this Saturday night. Okay, I'm going to just make sure this is positioned, Command T. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter to commit to that. Now I'm going to hit the Alt key. Let's give this another title as well. Let's call this Movie Madness. Let's drag this. Let's call this one Classic Motors. Like that. Make sure it's centered. And then finally, let's call this Animal Jungle. So these are our titles so far, but you can see we can't really read them clearly because our background is pretty much not dark enough. So what I'm going to do is let's add a bit more text because with just one line it doesn't look right. So let's call it Saturday Night Live for this one. L-I-V-E. So we're going to come over here to our text. Instead of extra bold, let's choose light. And then we're going to make the text slightly bigger by just dragging it like that. Okay, again, I'm going to drag this. Okay, Movie Madness. Let's call this Extra. Classic Motors. What should we call this? Classic Motors Show. And I'm just choosing these as I'm working on the design. So whatever comes to my mind is just what I'm adding on there. Animal Jungle. Right, might as well just put live in there. Okay. Right, okay, so now that we have our titles in place, that's looking good. Now let's add a bit of contrast here. So I'm going to click on this main image and we can see that we are in the right place. So what I'm going to do now is to add a new layer. So I'm going to click this new layer icon and then I'm going to come over here and click on this gradient tool. Now we can see here on the gradient right here at the top that we have white to transparent. Now this is the opposite of what we need. So I'm going to hit X. So now we have black to transparent. So what I'm going to do now is to, while this first image is selected, I'm going to click once on the bottom here and drag upwards like this. Okay. Now you can see that it's easier for us to read this because we have now added a bit of contrast. Okay. So depending on how much contrast you want to add in there, in fact, I'm not pretty much happy with this. So I want to make sure that this is black. So I'm just going to click on the color here and we can see now it's down to 00000, which is black, and that's good. So I'm going to come back again and click here. In fact, let me put my guides back on. So I'm going to hit Command:, And then I am going to just drag so I can see where I start. So hitting back on my gradient tool, I'm just going to click here and drag upwards like that. Okay, so now we can see, or we can read this much better. So what I'm going to do next is we can see now that this black has affected our background. So what we need to do is to add a clipping mask to each and one of these. So with my layer 2 selected, which is my gradient, so if I disable it, you can see that my black is affecting this background color here. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that this layer is a clipping mask of this one. So now you can see it's only affecting this one right here. So all I have to do now is to select this layer 2, hit Command J 3 more times, and then drag it to the right image. So I'm going to click this one, which is the second one, click my image, drag it until I get to the top of it, and then add my clipping mask like that. I'm going to click this classic car, grab my layer until I'm on top of it, hit the Alt key, create a clipping mask, click on the final image here, which is the fox, drag it all the way here until I'm at the top, and then I'm going to hit the Alt key. And now if I remove my guides, we can see that the black gradient only affects our image, and we still have our background color here. Okay, so that's looking pretty cool. Now, if you want to go back and adjust this, because this may come across, in fact, as I'm looking at it, the text here looks quite big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it and just make it slightly smaller. So I'm going to hit Command T. Okay, that looks much better. Right, let's do the same here. And finally, this one. Okay, so that's looking pretty cool. Now let's work on our main image here, our hero image. So as I click it, you can see here that it's selected right here. Let's add some title to this. So I'm going to come over here to my type tool. Let's type in our text. So I'm going to come over here to the top and make sure that I have extra bold selected. Or in fact, I can choose a different font in here. So let's use BBass. I love BBass. Okay, so let's call this Surfing Live. Right, I'm going to hit Command T. Okay, so I've got my text in position. And then my next text here is going to be watch tonight. Okay, watch tonight at 8 p.m. GMT. Okay, I think that's looking good. So let me add a bit more space here between the time. Okay, let's make this bigger. In fact, if you want to be a bit fancy with this, you can go in and add a bit of opacity on the text. So now here with my text selected, you can always lower the opacity here. So you can see, we can see a bit of the background, but that's something that you can do if you really want to do that. So for now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. In fact, I'm going to drag it up here a little bit so I can add a button. Right, so ideally we'd like our button to come over here and say watch now. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to my rectangle tool. So I'm going to click on rectangle. I'm going to draw my button nice and big. Now remember earlier on we had our palette. So I'm going to come over here and activate the palette. And we're going to choose this color right here for our button. So I'm going to hit my eye tool, eye for my eyedropper, click on the color. And then over here in my rectangle tool, I'm going to double click and then come over here to color overlay. Okay, so in fact, let me cancel that. So while I have this selected, in fact, what I was supposed to have done is to come over here, double click and select my color by hitting Command C, clicking OK. Now, with my rectangle tool selected, and I can see it selected here in my layers, I'm going to double click, come over here to color overlay, click the color, and then paste the color that I just copied. So now we can see it's right there. And that color matches with our color palette. I'm happy with my color palette, so I'm going to disable it for now. Now let's drag this to the top a little bit. In fact, let's make it slightly smaller so we can see a bit more of the surfer. And then I'm going to drag my text up here like that. And then in the button here, we're just going to type watch now like that. And then we're just going to drag this into position. And then if it's not big enough, you can just drag it here. I'm just dragging the slider right here at the top. That's looking good. Now, I'm not pretty happy with this because it's too close to the edge. So I'm just going to drag this in a little bit. Okay, so let's zoom out. Okay, so that's looking pretty cool. Now the next thing you can also do here is to add a bit of a gradient. So I'm going to click here on the image, add a new layer. And just like what we did here before, we're just going to come here, click on D to reset our colors. I'm going to come over here to my gradient tool, click once and drag up. But this time I'm not going all the way up. So I'm just doing it a little bit like that. And then I'm just going to make sure that I add my clipping mask. So I'm hitting my Alt key. I'm going to click once, and now we can see that our clipping mask is now selected. Now here's a cool trick. What we need to do here is to make it blend with this color here. So let's try and do that. So I'm going to hit my eye to select my eyedropper tool like that. So I'm going to double click so I can make sure that I have the color that I need. Okay, so I'm going to copy that just in case I lose it. So here my clipping mask is black, so I'm going to delete that. And let's do our gradient one more time. So with my image selected, I'm going to add a new layer. And then I'm just going to click right where this image ends. Hold on the shift key while I drag so that I can get a straight line. And then I'm going to let go. I'll do it one more time. Like that. So now you can see, in fact, let me zoom in so you can actually see. Now it seems like our image here or our background is blending into our image right here at the top. And I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to hit Command minus to zoom out. And then what we're going to do next is to add our navigation and our logo. So on our navigation, I'm going to come here, hit the T for the type tool. I'm going to click once, and then I'm just going to type home, movies, shows, about, and contact. Okay, so the color, I'm not pretty much happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit here, this black, and turn that into white, like that. Click OK. And I'm going to reduce the size to about, say, 27, and then just drag it into position. Now, if you're not happy with the font that we're using here, you can always go ahead and change it. It doesn't really matter. So I'm happy with that, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. Now, what I'm going to do here is at the top, Okay, so what we're going to do is at the top here, we can see that our text is not easily readable. So there's two ways we could do this. We can add a gradient on the top, or we can just add a rectangle behind this. So I'm going to go with the rectangle option. So making sure that my foreground color is this dark or close to black color. I am just going to go and click this rectangle tool and just drag at the top here like that. And now you can see that it's easier now to read our navigation. Okay, so I'm going to select it one more time because I think it's a bit too big. I'm going to make sure that this is set to about, say, 22. That's much better. Okay, drag this into position. Finally, we need to add our logo. So mine is going to be a text logo. So I'm just going to come in here and we're just going to call it movie. Okay, that's just something that I just thought about right now. So in your case, you're going to be using a proper logo. Okay, so let's select our color. So again, I'm going to come here to my color palette. And this is the beauty of labeling our layers. So I can easily find it here. So you can see here, this is my color palette. And I'm going to hit I for the eyedropper tool. I'm going to choose this color right here for my logo. I'm going to select it, hit Command C. Now that I've selected my color, I don't need the color palette, so I've just disabled it. So I'm going to select this color again, come over here, and then just paste my color for my color palette, and then I'm going to click on OK. So now I have my logo. Okay, so finally, we're just going to add some text to add to the footer. So with my text selected, I'm going to come over here and just select the About Us, Shows and Movies. And then I'm just going to lower the opacity because this white is a bit too much. So I'm going to lower that. And I think I'm happy at 36. And then below that, we're going to come over here and these are going to be our links. And again, I'm going to lower the opacity. Or the other alternative is you could actually choose a color that you can add in there. But for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to lower the opacity. So I'm going to just drag and just make sure that I add a few more links here. Fantastic. Now I'm going to add a line that goes across. So I'm going to select my line tool. And then I'm just going to click once, hold the Shift key so I can get a straight line. And just let go. And I'm happy with that color because that color is from our color palette. So I'm just going to drag this into position like that. And if you want to move these, this text here, you can go ahead and do that by just selecting all of it and then just dragging it all up. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit once here and just add copyright 2008. 2008, what am I talking about? 2017. Okay, so I'm going to make that slightly smaller. So instead of 18, I'm going to make it 16. Like that. Okay, now this line is a bit too in my face, so I'm going to lower the opacity as well. And just make it very subtle. Okay, so I'm just going to drag these slightly higher because they don't look right when they're really close to that line. That's much better. In fact, what we could do is with this shape, we can just hit Command T and let's make it slightly smaller. That. Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to hit Command minus. So now we can see this is our final design. And again, you can see here on the footer that the text is a bit too bright. So this is something that you can go in and make some adjustments. But this pretty much is our design of the page. So let's move around it one more time. We can see here, this is our main area, our hero area. And the key to this design as well is we are using nice, bright pictures. And this is one of the key things that you need to understand in design when you design websites, that the images is very, very important. So if you have your own camera, make sure you take great images to use for your websites. If it's all about products, make sure you take the right product photographs to use on your website. So again, as we drag here, we can see that it's quite easy to navigate. Our colors work very well together as we chose them from the color palette. And all our areas here, this layout looks really nice. So this is the design that you'd send your client, or if it's your own design, this is something that you can email around, ask your friends, family, and ask them what they think about the design. So you can see we haven't spent the whole day designing this, but this is a layout that you can do. And if there's any changes, you can always come back into this design, make the changes before you commit to designing the whole page in DIVI or whatever software that you used for designing your website. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to watch more of this, make sure that you go to mac.live or diviuniversity.com. I'm working on some courses, so you can learn how to design websites the way that I pretty much did it myself. And I know I've covered quite a lot of shortcuts and all of that, but it doesn't really matter because this is actually what helps you work faster. I'm in the process of also working on a Photoshop course, so if you are interested, just keep an eye and make sure that you subscribe so you'll be notified when I make the announcements. So guys, make sure that you like and do share it if you like it. Thanks a lot for watching.